Word on this. Hello, okay, and welcome to this is for July, Freedom of Forgiveness. And I am so excited about this bracelet this month because I love the stones that are in it and the intention of it. I think that all of us at some capacity, also need to forgive, right? So I'm just gonna pull up, where's my screen share? Here we go. The postcard and just talk about the inspiration behind the bracelet. I think the inspiration behind this is because there's been the inspiration behind most of my designs is actually repetition and patterns that I start seeing in conversations and in life, and things just start showing up. And forgiveness was a huge theme that showed up for me in June, because this was, or like May, because beginning of June is when we launched the July bracelet for our practice that we will practice for July, right? So it was just a theme of people both forgiving and also not forgiving. So I've had a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but significant people around me and in my life and in a close inner circle that are not practicing forgiveness and really holding on to things and creating a lot of toxic energy, right? And so this was just kind of like the culmination of that. And then hearing other people talk about their experiences and how forgiveness has been moving through a lot of people right now as well, and how it's been enhancing their lives, right? So just the beginning, it says, there comes a point in your life when you realize that forgiveness really is the key to your freedom. Because when we're not letting go of that resentment, that anger, that guilt, that shame, any of these things, they really hold you captive, because the lens that you're going to see things through is going to be through the lens of that. That's always going to kind of be there, right? But when we are truly able to forgive and to release, we are free from it. It is no longer in our energy body. It's no longer in our nervous system, in our physical bodies, because we do have physical reactions to these kind of emotions. So the stones that I wanted, porcelain jasper was the biggest one. I have these beautiful oval stones of porcelain jasper, and this is known as the healer of old wounds. And so anything that's lingering, anything that's been heavy on your heart, heavy on your mind, porcelain jasper is fantastic for that. Rhodonite, another awesome stone for forgiveness. This one brings in that aspect of self-love. So if it has something to do with shame or guilt or self-loathing over a mistake that was made or a decision that didn't go well, rhodonite really comes in and says, forgive yourself, love yourself. Rose quartz, universal love. We got to have that in there. And then garnet. I wanted the contrast of the garnet because it's so strong and so grounding and creates this foundation for you to stand on while you navigate this, like, oh, this is a lot. Sometimes we hold on to these grievances and they become so much of who we are and become so much of our identity that the thought of letting them go is like, well, if I don't have this resentment or anything, then like, who am I without that? Who am I without this excuse sometimes, right? It can be like, well, I can't because I'm this or that. And it's like, well, actually, if you let it go, and I'm not saying this is every situation, but these are, it can be really rattling to let go. And then sunstone, joy and playfulness, happiness, really encouraging and embracing what's on the other side of that freedom, or with that freedom and the other side of forgiveness. Kunzite helps to clear emotional blockages. So if there's emotions that are in your energy body, in your body, and you're having a hard time maybe feeling them or a hard time releasing them, kunzite comes and helps with that. Magnesite is wonderful for stress relief and emotional balance. And then Mukite, the stone of the here and now. So it's keeping you in the present moment. Sometimes when we get wrapped up in these memories, it's going to pull us into the past. And it says, no, come forward. We're here right now. Be here now is why Mukite was there. And then the little elephant. I just love having that little elephant in there. There's something about it. I've never had like an animal or a charm in our monthly bracelet, and this one just really called to me for this, because elephants really they take care of each other, right? They're matriarchal, they have pods, they have emotions, they have funerals. I mean, they really are, they care for each other, which is really beautiful. Oh, Haley, thank you. So she loves it. The stones and the elephant. I love the elephant too. I love the elephant too because I have like a family history of it. My grandpa had this big elephant. It was like probably like this big elephant statue with its trunk up, big ears. And I actually have it at my house here. I got to keep it. And I just loved it. It was on his mantle and it just was like, this is grandpa's house and grandpa has this elephant. I don't know what it was, but it was just such a key figure. And I think that's what I love about it too, is that it has this ancestral care aspect to it, you know, that you're not alone. So I really love the elephant in there. Yeah, and elephants are known for their capacity to forgive. Exactly. That's why it's such a beautiful symbol for this. So when we talk about all of this freedom of forgiveness and all of these, you know, beautiful ideas of letting go of these big, heavy emotions, sometimes ones that we've carried for a very long time, it's like, okay, well, how do we do that? Right? So this is rhodonite. It's a little different than the one that was sent, but that's all right. All right, so here, the release practice. The first part of this practice is noticing what you're carrying. So sometimes we can't always recognize what we're carrying because we're so close to it, or it becomes so familiar that we don't realize that we're carrying it even. And so it's like, okay, well, when things come up, or we might not realize we need to forgive, but we're carrying emotions. So what are some of the emotions that we notice when forgiveness is lacking? So things like bitterness can come up, resentment, anger, guilt, sadness, or even grief over what was lost in the situation. These are all signs that forgiveness could be in order, right? Sometimes, you know, little personal share when I went to started therapy in 2019 because of my migraines. She was like, "Oh, you've experienced a significant amount of trauma," and I was like, "I don't know, it's like everybody's normal life, you know." And she was like, "No," and so it's like you might not even see it. So these emotions are maybe some of those signs, right? So hostility and anger, resentment, bitterness, betrayal and grief, vigilance or suspicion, that can also be part of it too. So like if you have a loss of trust that leads to this hyper awareness, paranoia, or even feeling the need to constantly like protect yourself from being hurt again, that can that's a sign that there might be forgiveness that needs to happen. And letting go of that guard, right? And self-directed emotions. So feelings of shame or self-blame or powerlessness, that victim mentality for remaining in a state of unresolved pain. And now when I say all of these, it's easy to be like, yeah, let's all just let go of our hostility and anger and resentment and bitterness, you know? And it's like, yes, and these are really big life themes that come up. So as you work through some of the, you know, this practice, really find that patience and that compassion and love and self-care as you move through these. Also, I recommend finding a therapist if it's something that's really big. I mean, therapy literally changed my life. I was having blinding migraines 3 times a week, sometimes for 6 days. I couldn't see, I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't parent, I couldn't work. So it's like a really big deal to go to therapy. Now I have one maybe twice a year. So, and it's probably hormonal. But anyway, I highly recommend that if it's something bigger that you've been carrying, is finding support in that way. And then, so notice what you've been still carrying. So that's where we're kind of observing, like, what are the emotions that we have, what memories or person or situation still has an emotional hold on you. And then the other question is, how has holding on to this affected my peace? Because remember, when we go back to the Navarasa, we're always trying to come back to that peace, the Shanti in the middle. So separate the person from the pain. So choose one situation that you've identified after you're noticing what you're still carrying. Create 2 columns in your journal. So column 1 is what happened, write only the facts. And then column 2 is what story have I continued telling myself about that situation. Now notice the difference between the event and the narrative that you've carried. This isn't about denying the experience, don't get me wrong here. It's about recognizing where your mind continues to replay it. So it's recognizing what happened and how am I reacting, right? And then practicing releasing. So once you've identified this and you've kind of been like, okay, so here's what happened and here's where I'm still in. Practice releasing. So breathe and imagine placing that burden into a flowing river. You don't have to throw it, or maybe you do, but you can simply set it down and watch the current carry it away. If it returns tomorrow, repeat the practice, right? So it's a continual, that's why it's called a practice, right? We're continually laying it down. Or, if you're in your meditation and you're picturing this rock and you want to throw it as far away as possible, you can do that too. If you want to slam it into the river, you can do that too. I think a lot of, you know, peace and mental health and meditative things are trying to bring you to this place of super calm and peace while you're letting it go. And sometimes for that energy to move through, I don't think that always serves. I think we need to have an aggressive release. I had a lot of anger come up this a few months ago. I mean, really triggered me. And I was like, wow, this is still in my body. And I held a low plank position and pictured myself pushing that person away, right? So my whole body is shaking and I'm releasing and I scream, but it's like this active, strength engaged push because that was the motion in my body that wasn't allowed to happen, right? And so by doing that, my body is feeling that and we're able to release, right? So it doesn't always have to be, we're going to gently set a stone in a bubbling brook of beautiful water. Sometimes it's a big F you and you chuck the stone. Okay. I mean, not at anyone, but you know what I mean. So just practicing release can look a lot of different ways. If you want something a little bit softer, you can definitely do that, placing that stone into the river. And then offer yourself some grace, exactly like I was saying at the very beginning here. Sometimes the person that we've been waiting to forgive is ourselves. So ask yourself, what did I need that I didn't have at the time? Okay. And remember, you made the best decision you could with the awareness that you had. Okay. So really acknowledging that you have so much love and so much peace and so much capacity within you. Even if you didn't feel it in the time, we can move through it now. There's this one practice that has been really powerful for me, is in meditation where you go back, you're here now with all of these tools and as far as you've come, and you go back and in your meditation and you picture yourself, at the age or during, at that time, and you just like love on that version of yourself, right? And you just pour love into that version of you. Because this kind of comes into like quantum physics and timeline theories and time overlap, whatever. But it really is like you're healing that part of you back then to really move forward. And that's just been really helpful. And there's even memories that I have where I'm like, was that me coming back? Like, is that my future self? And then even on the other side of that, thinking of your future self. So if you're meditating and you're like, I'm here, what would my future self, my healed, most complete version of me say to me now? So thinking of both, the whole spectrum of experience and the whole spectrum of timeline, because it just helps to find that self-care and compassion and that grace for yourself. And then each day, place your hand over your heart and repeat. I release the expectation that my past self should have known what my present self knows. I choose compassion and I choose freedom. Bye, Haley. Thank you. So I'm just going to close that. All right. So yeah, let me just repeat that. I release the expectation that my past self should have known what my present self knows. I choose compassion. I choose freedom. And you ask yourself daily, what can I release today? So this forgiveness practice, it can be like you could do a fire ceremony and burn a piece of paper. We talked about rage writing in the past, where you write down all of the things that are just pissing you off or creating anger in your body. Write it all down and then burn that piece of paper. And it's a way of getting it out of your nervous system, right? But then it's also daily care, just like we brush our teeth, just like we shower, just like we eat and hydrate, all these maintenance things that we do for our physical body. Forgiveness can be one of those maintenance things that we do for our emotional body. And like the Ho'oponopono, we talked about that practice. It's, what is it again? I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. It's thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, is that one. And that one is really beautiful. We can go back to that practice that we have. You should have if you were joined us there, you have a postcard for that even. And that can be a daily practice. Just finding a way to really help release this out of your body. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a guided meditation, and you can use this guided meditation for anytime that you want to practice releasing, right? I am going to turn my video off while I'm reading it. So there's still a picture there of me, but here we are. All right, so we're moving into this meditative space. So find a comfortable position. You can be sitting or laying down, and allowing your hands, if you're seated, to just gently rest in your lap, or if you're laying down, they can be by your side. If it feels comfortable for you, you can close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and gently exhale. Again, breathing in and breathing out. One more time like that. And as you breathe, allowing your shoulders to soften, your jaw to release. Let the muscles around your eyes become smooth. With each breath, feel yourself becoming a little more present, a little more settled, a little more open. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a beautiful meadow. The air is warm. A gentle breeze moves through the tall grasses. In the distance, you hear birds singing, and the sun rests softly on your skin. You begin walking through the meadow. With every step, your body feels lighter, calmer, and more at ease. Ahead, you notice a small stone path leading toward an old wooden gate. As you approach, you see words carved into the arch above it. Freedom begins here. You gently open the gate. On the other side is a peaceful garden, unlike anywhere you've ever seen. There is a bench beneath a large tree. A small stream flows nearby. Everything here feels safe. This is a place where you can set down what you've been carrying. Take a seat on the bench. Notice what you're holding, not in your hands, but in your heart. Perhaps it is disappointment, resentment, or grief, shame, regret, or maybe it's something you cannot quite name. There is no need to force anything, just simply notice. Imagine that each hurt you've been carrying has taken the form of a stone resting in your lap. Some are small, some are heavy. Some you've carried for so long that they've begun to feel like a part of you. Pick up one stone, only one. Notice its weight. Notice how long you've been carrying it. Then quietly ask yourself, what has carrying this cost me? Peace, joy, energy or connection, freedom? Simply notice what arises without judgment or expectation. Now walk toward the stream. The water is crystal clear. It flows gently and continuously, a reminder that life is always moving. Nothing remains the same forever. Hold the stone over the water. Take a slow breath As you exhale, gently release the stone into the stream. Watch as the current carries it away. Notice that you do not have to chase it. You do not have to pull it back. You simply allow it to go. Say quietly to yourself, I release what no longer belongs in my heart. Take another deep breath. Feel the space that has been created. Now return to the bench. As you sit, someone begins walking towards you. You recognize them immediately. It is you. Not the you of today, but a younger version of yourself, perhaps only a few years younger, perhaps much younger. Notice the expression on your face. Notice what you're carrying. Notice what this version of you needed. Allow this version of yourself to sit beside you. Look into their eyes with kindness, without judgment, without criticism, just simply love. Silently ask them, what did you need that you didn't have? Listen. Perhaps they needed safety or understanding, support, hope, forgiveness. Let the answer come naturally. Now gently take their hands and say, I know you did the best you could with what you knew. I know you were trying. I release you from the expectation of perfection. I forgive you. Notice how they respond. Perhaps this version of you smiles, perhaps they cry, perhaps simply they breathe more deeply. Wrap this version of yourself in a warm embrace. Allow them to know they are deeply loved, completely accepted, worthy exactly as they are. As you hold them, imagine they begin to dissolve into light. The light gently flows into your own heart. The younger you is not separate from you. They have always been part of you. And now they are welcomed home, whole, accepted, loved. Place one hand over your heart. Feel your own heartbeat. Feel your own breath. Notice how much lighter your heart feels, perhaps not completely free, but freer than before. Repeat silently. I choose peace over replay. I release the stories that keep me imprisoned. I forgive others when I am ready. I forgive myself with compassion. I choose freedom. Take one final deep breath. Imagine your being filling with warm golden light. Remembering that freedom is not found by changing the past. Freedom is found by releasing your grip on it. Slowly bring your awareness back to your breath. Feel the chair beneath you. Wiggle your fingers, your toes. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Carry this freedom with you, one breath, one choice, and one act of forgiveness at a time. I encourage you to take a moment here to journal a little bit, maybe writing down the emotions that came up, writing down what you're releasing, what version of yourself showed up, how you felt when you saw that version, and really processing what it is that you and that version of yourself need. This is the power of forgiveness. This is the freedom of forgiveness. So thank you so much for joining me for the August Moxie Monthly members call. And I hope that you find some beauty and some release and some freedom this month. Have a beautiful day.